There it is, Orlando. Beautiful Orlando, Florida. Look at the ocean there, folks. Just kidding. Orlando's in the middle of the state. Really? Oh, look at that. See that? That's our new sky cam. That's our new sky. And the guys in the control room put this thing together. Parker, Colin, MD, Ben, Drew, Matt. Oh, you guys are amazing. Great crew here at Rev. Look, you can see our logo over there. That's awesome. Love that sky cam. They'll flicker, put it in and out throughout the show. We have a big show, a couple of big stories. First, Vladimir Putin came out and said this just recently. Listen.
We agree with the propositions to stop hostilities, but we proceed from the fact that such ceasefire should be such that would lead to a permanent peace.
So in essence, Putin says he, in essence, agrees to the ceasefire. We'll see if it lasts. That was a big story. We have the great Senator Mike Lee from Utah here to talk about that. And also this one on today as well. Watch. And that, folks, that's just not some random college campus. You know what that is right there? That's Trump Tower. That is Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue in New York City. Palestinian protesters occupied it. Some of them got arrested. We will have Mike Baker, former FBI agent, great guy. Mike Baker is going to spend some time with us talking about that and also the Putin story a little bit later in the show. In the meantime, New York politics is dominated by incompetent, fraudulent Democrats for years, always has been since Mayor Giuliani. Mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani is looking to become the next screaming Dem to leave his mark on the city that never sleeps. Listen to this guy. He wants to be the mayor. Listen to how this man who's running for public office addressed Tom Homan, of all people. I mean, what kind of lunatic is that? This guy wants to be mayor of New York City, screaming at Tom Homan. And by the way, what happened to, your own mayor in New York who says, Eric Adams, who says, yeah, you know what, you're right. Immigration was a problem. It's a terrible idea. You want that nut job, that lunatic as the mayor of New York? Let me see. De Blasio, Eric Adams. It's been just a disaster for New York City. I cannot believe I spent 30 years in that city. Giuliani left. The place has gone right to S. Jasmine Crockett is good for, I don't know, maybe one or two horrible ideas every single week. Well, here's her very latest.
In my opinion, if we're shut down, you can't be fired. And what does that mean? It does mean that people will not be paid, but it does mean that they will get their back pay. So hopefully we can stop some of the bleeding. We just saw that the Department of Education laid off 50% of their workforce. So I don't really understand why anybody would say, oh, we got to take the high road. Listen, he is decimating the federal government. And you're talking about whether or not we're going to keep the doors open. He literally is shutting down departments anyway.
All right, Jasmine Crockett. Let me teach you a little story here. They can get fired, whether they're at work or not. You can get fired when you're home. So no, shutting the government down does not prohibit Elon Musk and Doge from firing the massive amount of bloat, waste, fraud, and abuse that's going on across the federal government, across the whole $7 trillion that we spend every year. Yes, you can get fired, and there's no back pay. If they find out you've been not working, no show, working from home and not working, doesn't matter if the government's open or shut. You're not getting back pay. You're getting gone. And by the way, Democrats, speaking of getting gone, you're going to keep getting gone if Jazz Crockett is the best you can come up with as a U.S. Congresswoman from the great state of Texas. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, he calls himself, which I don't really like at all. I don't like him that much either. Absolutely crushed, however, Rosie O'Donnell when O'Leary was on CNN, and he did it for thinking anyone gives a damn about Rosie O'Donnell's big move out of this brand new, beautiful America.
Who gives a
thank you
about Rosie O'Donnell and where she wants to go. I don't care what celebrities think about politicians or who they want to vote for. I think the last election proved it doesn't matter who you are.
You are a celebrity.
Yeah,
Really.
really.
On politics.
Who cares what I think in terms of my picking a politician or who I vote for? You make your own decision. If she wants to move to Phnom Penh, move to Phnom Penh. She wants to go to Ireland, great. It's a better passport. You get an EU passport, not the British one. It's better. But who gives a beep
Well,
about
Kevin,
Rosie O'Donnell?
obviously, Donald.
Make a deal. Just make a deal to keep Rosie O'Donnell in Ireland. I think that's where she's hanging out. Please, just stay there, Rosie. No one wants you back. I mean, remember she was on The View for a while too. I'm not sure. Whatever. She's welcome to leave. And I think I've offered some of these celebrities who said they would leave the country if Donald Trump was elected the first time and the second time. I've offered to pay their airline tickets one way. J.D. Vance has been, I don't know, sporting some very festive socks at St. Paddy's Day approaches. His latest outfit was tied together with green shamrock socks. That's right, something that Trump couldn't help but noticing during a meeting with the Irish Prime Minister today. Listen.
By the way, I have to speak of inflation. I love these socks. What's with these socks?
It's in honor of the T-shirts.
I'm trying to stay focused, but I'm very impressed with the VP's.
Yeah, those are cool. Those are cool. Trump loved them. It's pretty fun. Can you get the sky cam out? I don't do socks. I live in Florida. You got the sky cam there? Sockless. I don't think I wear white socks with dress shoes anyway, but call me crazy. Gavin Newsom's political rebrand is underway. He's making headlines for breaking away from the rest of his Dems on his little podcast lately. He's actually been making some sense lately, but I think there's an ulterior motive. This is where I want to slow things down just a bit and give you all a warning. If Gavin Newsom is making sense, something is obviously up. Something's wrong. There's something going on that we don't really understand. He doesn't actually believe anything he's saying. He's simply trying to come off as less radical to put some wind under his wings when the time comes to launch his inevitable 2028 presidential bid. With that said, listen to Newsom's revised take. Revised. He seems to be flip-flopping on everything to the conservative, to more conservative bend on all these issues. But listen to his revised take on America's vote counting process.
Why does it take so many months or days to count the ballots in California? A month. India, 1 day to count 640 million votes. Germany, 8 hours to count 50 million votes. Yep. Argentina, 6 hours to count 27 million votes. California, 4 weeks to count 16 million votes.
It's ridiculous.
Why?
It's ridiculous. It's because it's, and by the way, we've been having this conversation enough. And it's first of all, we believe that every vote counts. So we want to make sure every vote is counted because of the provisional ballots, the fact we do all mail-in ballots, the fact that we have such huge investments in making sure that we increase that outreach. We want to make sure, again, every vote counts. But you're right. The time,
I'm right about something?
Right, no, the right, absolutely. The right is right, and you are right to criticize the extended period.
Let me take it a little step further. Newsom decides he's going to do this podcast. Everyone's like, oh, maybe he's coming around. He's being a little bit more of a centrist. I don't think so. I think what he's doing, he's bringing on some of the more, I would say, vocal, strong conservative voices. Remember, his first show ever was Charlie Kirk. Our good friend Charlie Kirk was his first show ever. Very MAGA, very young, TPUSA, very RAV. And then he had Steve Bannon on yesterday, really the architect of the pro-populist movement, America First movement, brings him on yesterday. And today, that guy, Michael Savage, I think he's a conservative radio host, if I'm not mistaken. But bringing these people on, I don't think it's because Newsom is becoming more centrist. I think he's taking some of the best and strongest voices and using them as sparring partners. Like if you're Mike Tyson, you go in the ring and you got a big fight coming up, 2028 election, you have a good sparring partner, someone who's going to give you some good body blows or maybe hit you a little bit. Maybe you have to learn how to dance around, and maybe he's learning how to dance around Republicans and conservative voices, America First folks in 2028 by doing it now, by bringing on Charlie Kirk, by bringing on Steve Bannon, by bringing on Savage as well. Maybe it's a smart strategy, but why are we doing it? I'm not sure we should be going on his podcast. I think we'll let him F around and find out in 2028. What do you say? I'd like to bring you the latest badass clip of the day featuring Tom Homan, our no-nonsense border czar. Remember that mayor candidate wanting to get at Tom Homan? I'm pretty glad. I'm sure he's glad those cops weren't letting him get to Tom Homan. But watch Tom Homan, watch him casually walk to the podium, eating an apple, big apple, get it? There's a metaphor there, before absolutely obliterating Kathy Hochul.
No hate, no fear, immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear, immigrants are welcome. No hate, no fear, immigrants are welcome here.
Again, eat that apple and then go rip Kathy Hochul a new one. This may be one of the most focused, least distracted men in America minding his own business, drowning out all that liberal noise, getting the job done. Of course, what happened after Homan put the apple down is really worth watching. So here's a clip of the border czar eviscerating one of the worst politicians this country has to offer.
Let's talk about your governor. Your governor who stayed on national TV after NYPD were assaulted by illegal alien gang members. You had a woman burned alive by illegal alien subway. Your governor stands on national TV. Well, I think criminal aliens should be deported. What's one of the first things she do? She goes down to New York City and tries to fire the mayor who wants to help me find public safety threats. Let me give a shout out to Mayor Adams. Like him or love him, I called him up for 2 years by not doing enough. As a career cop, he wasn't doing enough. But when I sat down with him back in November, he came to the table. He wanted to help.
Yeah, it's shocking that Kathy Hochul is still the governor of New York. I mean, New York's really got to get your act together. Got to get your act together. Cuomo wasn't bad enough. You replace him, Cuomo, with a far more leftist. Homan's right. And by the way, we're lucky to have Homan in that position. Dana Bash, CNN's Dana Bash, well, she's lost her mind, apparently. She thinks she's so much more important than she actually is, and her inflated sense of self-worth led her to call out Elon Musk and Steve Bannon in one sentence.
I'm not sure that saying that Steve Bannon calls balls and strikes is the right way.
I think at the risk of Elon Musk tweeting about me, because apparently he likes when I say the word balls on TV, I will say that balls and strikes, when you're talking about Steve Bannon, when he calls balls and strikes, he calls strikes balls and balls strikes. I mean, that's what he does. He says the opposite of what is happening, particularly when you're talking about, I don't know, the 2020 election. So let's just be clear on that. Having said that, we are so siloed in how we consume information that the fact that Gavin Newsom is so aggressively going, he's not just going over the line, he's going like to the other side of the spectrum in order to make a point. That's what he's doing.
I mean, she seems to like to say balls a lot. I don't know, she's talking about balls and strikes. Remember when she couldn't say, remember that kid that was helping Doja and he named himself Big Balls, and Dana Bash couldn't stop saying his name. What's going on, CNN? You all right? Everything okay? Balls and strikes, Dana Bash. By the way, I'm going to ask Steve Bannon what he thinks about that little quote by Dana Bash later in the hour. You got to stick around. All right, when we come back, we have the great senator from Utah, Mike Lee. He's going to weigh in on all the things that are going on in Moscow right now and what we should be expecting going forward. Can we trust Putin? Can we trust Putin? Mike Lee comes up next after the break. Well, here we go. Let's bring in Senator Mike Lee, the great senator, Republican senator, by the way, libertarian senator, friend of mine from Utah. Senator, Vladimir Putin says he is agreeing in essence to some sort of peace deal that Steve Witkoff, as a representative of the United States, and Donald Trump has negotiated. Let's roll the soundbite, folks. Let's hear what he just said.
We agree with the propositions to stop hostilities, but we proceed from the fact that such ceasefire should be such that would lead to a permanent peace.
So, Senator, what do you think? Do you trust him? I mean, he says he agrees that the hostilities should cease, but let's make sure it's actually happening. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, look, the name of the game is always trust but verify. I don't know that there are many people in the world who do or should trust Vladimir Putin. That said, I don't think he's going to hint at the possibility of entering into a ceasefire and agree to a ceasefire and then pretend it never existed. Now, he said that he has that he wants concessions, or at least hinted to that effect. and some terms that may lead to a longer peace. The U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to go over to Moscow to negotiate with Russian leadership. We'll see what that brings. So I don't know where this goes. I wouldn't say that we can just trust Vladimir Putin. I don't think anybody would say that. Nonetheless, it appears that he's showing signs of wanting peace, and I'm just glad we're heading in this direction. Ever since that fateful meeting a couple of weeks ago between President Trump, Vice President Vance, and President Zelensky, where they sent Zelensky back on his way to sort of wait for him to change his attitude. It seems like the timeout has served him and the world well, and Mr. Zelensky's ready to come back to work toward a negotiated peace. This is a good thing. It's about 3 years overdue. We should have been doing this all along. And hats off to President Trump for making it happen.
You know, if folks don't know, Senator Lee has been on the forefront of saying no more aid to, certainly not this type of aid to Ukraine from the very, very beginning. And then the reason why I point that out, folks, is because Trump will tell us that we've sent $300 billion. I think Congress knows about $180 billion. And here's the problem, Senator. Zelensky knows of only $75 billion that he knows of yet. There's anywhere between $125 and $225 billion of American taxpayer money that seems to be missing. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so first of all, when we're dealing with this sheer volume of money, money that is estimated, in the hundreds of billions of dollars, Zelensky cites a much smaller number that might just reflect aid that directly came to Ukraine rather than being funneled through some other entity on the outside. I don't know quite how to explain for the discrepancy, but I will say this. When you're dealing with numbers that large, and you're dealing with a country like Ukraine that has not had exactly a clean track record when it comes to things like money laundering and official corruption, you have to assume, in fact, you can operate with a sure certainty that a lot of this has gone missing and that it's been, corruptly acquired by some people. I don't know that that explains for the entire discrepancy. Some of that's probably accounting methods, but it's odd. And what's even more odd is that notwithstanding the fact that we have spent hundreds of billions of dollars on this war, a war that is not ours to fight, there has never, up until this moment, up until President Trump took office, we haven't had a commander-in-chief ready, willing, able, interested in bringing about a peace. President Biden, with sadly the bipartisan support for the Congress over the last 3 years, has been willing to just dump aid, a lot of money and a lot of weapons into this conflict without ever pushing for peace. So better late than never.
What do you think? What's the motive? I'm trying to figure out. The only thing I can possibly think of is, Ukraine is well known as one of the money laundering centers of Eastern Europe. I mean, did the Democrats and Biden by de facto use Ukraine also to launder money to be sent back to their districts, to their election coffers, you think?
I don't know. I don't know where all of it went. There is a simpler explanation, which is also very troubling, which is that a lot of things happen under the auspices of facilitating in one way or another the military-industrial complex. In fact, Eric, there were times when this was so bad that was overtly an argument used to convince senators and representatives to vote for some of these bloated aid packages by saying, yeah, it's a lot of money. And then they'd start to express it first in terms of a percentage of our gross national product. That is a red flag. Anytime someone starts doing that, it's a red flag that there's way too much money involved. Right. But the other argument that they would make, they would say, oh, don't worry, this is going to create jobs in the United States. That's a real problem.
Yeah, keep that war going so we can fund it and create a few jobs back in Connecticut, in Chris Murphy's district in Connecticut. Gotcha. Way to go, Democrats.
Created and a few rich people made even richer by this.
Right. Senator, interesting timing on this, that Trump is meeting with NATO and the head of NATO here in the White House in D.C. today, while Witkoff is talking to Putin about ending a war. What are your thoughts? NATO, Ukraine, I think you and I agree that NATO should. First of all, I don't even think we should be in NATO, but if there is a NATO and we're going to be a big part of it, you keep Ukraine out so we don't spend another $500 billion protecting them.
Yeah, first of all, I believe the North Atlantic Treaty has served its purpose. And we have provided Europe's security umbrella for long enough. It has cost Americans dearly. It has allowed our European allies in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization to spend money doing other things, including advancing their march toward European-style socialism, because they don't have to spend as much money on their own defense because we pick it up. And so this is a very good deal for Europe, a very good deal for the promotion of socialism. To a degree, it's a good deal for the U.S. military-industrial complex, but not in a way that is as focused on protecting American national security as it should be. So we should get out. But between now and whenever we do get out, if the question is whether we should add Ukraine to NATO, heavens no. You don't ensure a house on fire, and you don't admit a country that is currently at war with an adversary with a massive arsenal. Some would say the world's largest arsenal of nuclear weapons. That's a terrible idea. Ukraine doesn't have any of the hallmark characteristics that one needs to have in order to be even considered for NATO admission.
Just like they don't insure people with pre-existing conditions, NATO shouldn't be insuring Ukraine with quite a few pre-existing conditions. Senator Mike Lee, appreciate your time. Always good. Would love to see this guy in the administration, some upper echelon of the administration. Hurry up, Senator, will you please? Please hurry up.
Hey, I've got the job I want. I'm having a great time in the U.S. Senate and grateful for the opportunity.
And you are doing a bang-up job. Appreciate it. Senator Mike Lee, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we will be right back. Well, Mad Dog, can you get on Voice of God for me? Can you get in here, Mad Dog? Press the right button, Mad Dog.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what you know that is the home of the Chicago Cubs? You know where I grew up, Mad Dog?
Did you grow up there?
Go. I used to ride my bicycle. We were very poor. I used to ride my bicycle from one of the poor suburbs of Chicago to Wrigley Field. And in the left field, there's a little area where the trucks came in and out, food trucks, etc., groundkeepers trucks, and there's a fence, and we used to climb over the fence and sneak into Wrigley Field and watch Cubs games for free. And then we go back out and wait for a home run ball to go over the left field fence on Waverly or Ashland, one of those two streets. Anyway, that brings a tear to my heart. Well done, Mad Dog. Well done. Thank you for that.
You got it.
All righty. Where's our sky cam? Where's the sky cam? Love the sky cam, Mad Dog. Houston, we have a problem. Democrats have declared war through the judicial system. The judges, we need to address the situation with these activist judges who seem to be running this country. The activist judges are all over the place, and we need to fix it, and quickly. For 4 years, Donald Trump and his close MAGA associates, Rudy Giuliani, Peter Navarro, they were victims of blatant leftist warfare. We watched as they did everything in their legislative power to not only try to prevent another Trump presidency, but to also try to take away President Trump's wealth and even his freedom. And the theory is, if they can do it to him, a billionaire, they could do it to us. Well, that's over for now. But we knew that they wouldn't go quietly into the night. We knew that. For years, I've said again and again and again that every single vote matters. Every single election matters. Every election has consequences. We're seeing the fruits of their labor now. Obama-appointed judges, Biden-appointed judges, which, let's face it, are really also Obama-appointed judges. All of them. All the judges really stem from the New World Order, the Soros gang. Those bought and owned by the deep state. And now we know deep state is everywhere. Just ask Mike Pence or watch the interview we did with him last Friday. The lawfare, it's not over. It's like a game of cat and mouse with everything that President Trump and Doge and Elon Musk are trying to do and trying to accomplish day in and day out. A judge blocks the deportation of illegal migrants. What's wrong with deporting illegals? Another judge blocks the deportation of a terrorist supporter, an instigator. Another judge insists on doxing Doge employees. I know they were being far too quiet in the days surrounding in and around the inauguration. I knew it was the calm before the storm, and folks, the storm is now. It's storming. The deep state, under the guise of the law and complete and utter overreach, is doing everything in their Soros-backed power to stop every single MAGA move and Trump. These aren't just your run-of-the-mill judges, by the way. These are activist judges meant to harm and stand in the way of every aspect of President Trump's agenda, the MAGA agenda. But it's not just corruption. No, it's also sheer stupidity. Exhibit A, and I'm reading. Biden-appointed judge demands Pete Hegseth retract social media post about trans policy, and that's in the Daily Caller. At the hearing yesterday in the lawsuit challenging the ban on transgender people in the military, federal judge Anna Reyes ordered Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to retract a post about disqualifying transgender troops from service. This same Biden-appointed judge also said the idea of two sexes is not biologically correct. Really now? Can't even ask a Supreme Court justice who wants to be one what a woman is. Yet another liberal who doesn't know what a woman is.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Supreme Court judge can't figure out what a woman is. Yeah, that woman, I know you're a woman, Ketanji. I know it. I bet a lot of money on it. She sits on the Supreme Court, folks. Scary stuff, but I digress. Or Biden-appointed judge demands Pete had to retract social media posts. So in more sheer stupidity, this Biden-appointed judge, federal judge, by the way, Reyes, also questioned the government's attorneys about whether she should be required to defer to the judgment of Pete Hegseth. Reyes pointed out that Hegseth has not been in his role as defense secretary very long. She said she believed Hegseth had no military experience, but then corrected herself and said something about having received an early deployment to do a TV show, whatever that means. And she's wrong, by the way. Reyes suggested that instead, she should defer to an opinion expressed by the former chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff years ago, emphasizing he had a stellar military record. Talk about a constitutional crisis. It's one thing to have a shadowy web of Soros' own judges percolating through the American judicial system. Very dangerous. Like cancer running through your bloodstream. This is a constitutional crisis all on its own. But this is a different kind of crisis, having a judge who thinks she can disregard the proper exercise of executive authority by Trump simply because she believes the cabinet member isn't sufficiently qualified. Was Lloyd Austin qualified? Under her terms, probably, but Lloyd Austin is the guy who had a severe medical issue, didn't tell anyone, went to the emergency room, was there overnight, 24 hours, and told his subordinate, don't tell anyone. I know I'm the cabinet secretary for the Defense Department, but don't tell anyone. How much risk was America in for those 24 hours? What if they couldn't get in touch with him? That's qualified? Got it. There was an entire hearing proceeding to establish that lady, judge. A tweet by lawyer Kurt Schlichter says it all. Quoting Schlichter, for you non-lawyers, this is literally insane. This never happens. And when I say never, I mean never. I've been in front of stupid federal judges. I've been in front of wrong federal judges, but this is a whole new level. Well, there's more to be done to fix what America has broken in our judicial system than ever can be fixed in 4 years, because they're kind of appointed for life-ish. Although President Trump's current breakneck speed, never say never. Something needs to be done, though, folks, and it needs to be done right away. This week alone, activist judges have, and I'll read a few of these, ordered the release of illegal Venezuelan migrants back into America. A judge did that. Told the president, the United States president, he can't stop the George Soros-funded law firm Perkins Coie from entering government buildings. Let's just refer to the Constitution. You know, that pesky little thing that Democrats have come to hate and will do anything in their power to work around, that thing. So what exactly are the powers of the president given to him by the Constitution of these United States? Oh, that's right. Article 2, Constitution states that the executive power shall be vested in the president. No court may take or overrule that. No court may define or limit the scope of the duties of an official within the executive office of the president. Not just the president, the people he appoints. So what in God's name is going on here? Why have we no impeachments been started on these judges? We, the people, elected Donald Trump as president. We didn't elect these activist liberal Soros or Biden-owned judges because the activists in black robes identify as judges, but they're just Democrat operatives, and they're going for broke right now. They hand out injunctions like candy, make it rain, instead of doing what it was intended to do. Only extraordinary judges, judicial remedies to be used in extraordinary circumstances, judicial norms, out the window. Legal precedent also out the window. Sanity, well, we know that went out the window with the Trump derangement syndrome in Trump 1.0. Here we are. Judge orders Doge and Elon Musk to turn over documents, answer written questions, according to Politico. Yep. Yesterday, Judge Tanya Chutkan, remember her, granted a request by Democrats to uncover the identities of Doge personnel, doxing, and also the parameters of Doge's and Musk's authority. So now activist federal judges can assist the woke mob and order Doge employees to be doxed. They're already burning Tesla dealerships. What do you think they're going to do to these people whose identities are exposed to these radical lunatic leftists? You see what they're doing in Trump Tower as we speak. Folks, Democrats have once again declared war through the judicial system. It's official. War's on. Game on, as they say. But it isn't just a system of corrupt judges left behind. We don't even have the time in an entire show or a week of entire shows to dive into the shadowy web of deep state corruption, NGOs, fatty overspending, overpaid federal agencies, groups. These judges, just the judges alone are threatening this country's progress in the right direction. If I hear those words, judge blocks Trump again, it's only been 50 days or so. How many judges, how many blocks of Trump policy so far? Why is it never judge blocks America-hating Ilhan Omar from remaining in Congress, or judge blocks AOC from teaching illegals how to continue breaking the law by remaining in this country? Or how about judge blocks constitutional members from stealing American taxpayers' money? Why aren't the blocks ever to benefit the American people? I think we know the answer to that one. Trump derangement syndrome. And boy, it's one hell of a disease. When we come back, we have Mike Baker, former FBI, who's going to take us through all things going on downtown New York and all things going on in Moscow. When we come back, 2.5 minutes. So this is all cool. You know, I don't know what these Earth Cam pictures are going to be, or these camera shots that are going to be in these bump shots. It's called a bump shot because you bump in and out of segments. TV lingo. I don't know what generally don't know what they're going to be. Bristol, Tennessee. I assume that's a NASCAR Bristol Speedway, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Mad Dog, am I right?
You are right.
I am right. Okay. I hope that was on Voice of God. See, he can talk to me sometimes if I'm screwing something up, and then he can also talk to you too and me. Mad Dog, can you do Voice of God for all of us? Say
this is the voice of God.
And one time, there's a funny story. I asked them to put this into the show, The Voice of God, where I can talk to the control room. They can talk to me, but I wanted people on TV to hear it as well. Now, traditionally, Voice of God is a speaker in the studio, and you can hear it like a voice of God. It just sounds like it. That's why they call it that, not to be disrespectful. But my guys are really great tech people, and they're really young, and this is old school. And so they put in Voice of God, and I say, Mad Dog, and the first thing he said was, go to break. I was like, no, you're not supposed to sound like God or what you think God sounds like. Just Voice of God. Anyway, I had to tell you a story. All right. My next guest, good friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, former CIA covert operative and CEO of the global intelligence and security firm Portman Square Group. He also hosts an extremely popular podcast, folks. If you don't watch or listen to it, you need to. It's called President's Daily Brief. Around here, we call it PDB, not Patrick Bet David, the President's Daily Brief. Happy to have Mike Baker here. Mike, good to have you, my friend. We go way back. We go a long time back, and your success, it's awesome and well earned. Mike, if I may, can you weigh in on, should we trust Vladimir Putin saying, in essence, I'm okay with this deal and we're going to stop shooting?
No, I mean, look, everyone's got to, make a decision on that point, but I'm just basing this on, a lot of years of operational work and having observed and watched and dealt with some of his people over the years, I wouldn't trust Putin as far as I could toss him out a window. And I think what he's doing right now is what you would logically do in his position. He feels as if he's got the upper hand here. He's already, he also agrees with Trump. Kyiv doesn't have any cards to play. And so in that position, while your military is actually making headway, they're taking back all that territory in Kursk that the Ukrainians took in a surprise offensive back in August. And in that offensive, they took about 530 square miles. They're down to now holding only about 60 square miles or less. So the Russians are taking back that turf. So there goes that leverage point from Kyiv's perspective. And the Russians are also making headway, albeit slowly, but they're making progress in the eastern side of Ukraine, taking additional land, pushing that front line back further into Ukraine. So when you're in that position, you have to ask yourself from a pragmatic standpoint, why would he sit down at the negotiating table right now? Why not just stall and say, well, yeah, I like the idea. In theory, there's some things we have to work out. Meanwhile, his forces are kicking butt on the ground, and he's just thinking, I'm just going to see how much turf I can take.
What is the deal going to be? You're right. So let's listen carefully to this soundbite. Again, it's an interpreter, but listen to the words that he's actually saying. And Mike might be right in this. That this might be a little stall tactic. Take a listen.
We agree with the propositions to stop hostilities, but we proceed from the fact that such ceasefire should be such that would lead to a permanent peace.
Yeah, so you can stop shooting for now, but then the devil is in the details of what they're going to how they're going to divvy up whatever contested area of Ukraine. About right?
Well, I don't think there's going to be any divvying going on from Putin's perspective. It's just going to be, I'm taking what I currently have plus anything that I collect on the ground between now and should he decide to actually have a seat at the negotiating table and perhaps pursue a ceasefire or an agreement. But he's been pretty consistent and clear. And I think one thing that we need to take away from all the years of what Putin has done is take him at his word, right? So, this wasn't a 3-year project, right? He moved into Crimea back in 2014. He's had troops in South Ossetia and Georgia since 2008. This is all part and parcel of his mindset, which is he wants to rebuild in some fashion, as he has said many times, the former Soviet Union. Not the whole thing, he knows that, but he wants to rebuild it in some fashion. So I really don't believe that he has any motivation right now to sit down in good faith and come up with anything that looks like a negotiation. I think he would just say, give me everything I want.
Can I give you a little motivation? That I think Trump in office, maybe enough motivation at least. I don't know, maybe pause and see what happens in 2028 and see if he wants to continue. And this, by the way, this is exactly why we have to do one of two things. Either get out of NATO or certainly make it very clear that Ukraine will never be part of NATO, because Putin is not going to stop right now if it's not a Donald Trump in office, I believe. What do you say?
Yeah, no, I think that's you're reading Putin's mindset correctly, which is that's one of his longstanding conditions, that there will be no expansion of NATO. In fact, he wants NATO to shrink away on the eastern portion of the eastern side of NATO. He wants the Ukrainian military shrunk down to a minuscule size. So those have been consistent demands on his part. I will say that dealing with Putin is not like dealing with the head of Canada or the head of Mexico or leaders in the EU. You're talking about an entirely different cat here. And so my only caution would be that it's not going to be easy. And I know we're talking in the White House, rightly so. They're talking about financial pressure on Putin if he doesn't agree to a ceasefire. But let's be realistic. He has beaten the worst of the sanctions over the past 3 years because he has significant support from China, from India, North Korea, Iran. And so he's proven adept at getting around a lot of the sanctions we put on him.
Well, it's not over. Putin says we'll stop. There's a lot of negotiation going on. Can I just? I want to bring this up because it's blowing my mind. This pro-Palestinian. I don't know why these people aren't just taken out en masse and jailed. This is the view inside Trump Tower earlier today. Trump Tower, the beautiful on Fifth Avenue, gorgeous place. And these people are just wrecking it. For a while, they weren't arresting anyone. They just let this go on for a while. And of course, Tom Homan is in New York to kind of try and clean things up. What do you think of this pro-Hamas push? What's his name? Free Muhammad Khalil?
Muhammad Khalil. Yeah.
Insanity. What? Can't we get over this? I thought we have Trump and you can get rid of all these knuckleheads.
Well, as we've seen, the White House will try to take certain measures, which you would look at and go, yeah, that makes sense. That's common sense. And then the judiciary is pushing back on a number of these things. And so, but you're right. Look, you look at this and you think, okay, at what point do we learn a lesson here that if you don't have consequences for bad behavior, right? Whether we're talking about the anti-Semitic protests on campus and the destruction of property, and or whether we're talking about the Tesla takedown, where those individuals are claiming it's a peaceful protest, and yet you've got numerous cases of arson, carrying explosives, throwing Molotov cocktails, damaging property, endangering people's well-being. At what point do we learn that you have to have consequences?
It's amazing, Mike. It's
bad
amazing.
behavior.
It's amazing. The leftists who, Summer of Love 2020, peaceful protest, buildings are on fire, bullets are flying, people died. Burn a Tesla dealership, peaceful protest, but go outside an abortion clinic as a Christian and say, we have another idea for you, and you get arrested. You get cuffed and get thrown out of that. It's incredible. Mike, I got to go. Appreciate your time. We'll get you back again soon. Again, everyone.
I hope so.
President's Daily Brief, PDB podcast were very, very successful. Mike, good to have you, brother.
Take care, man. Talk to you soon.
All right. We got the one, the only, the man, Stephen K. Bannon. I'll ask him what the K stands for. I'm going to guess Keith when we come back. All righty, there you go, West Palm Beach, Florida. We have a camera on the roof of this building somewhere, but I'm not sure those look like familiar from the last couple of days. That's all right, though. All right, let's bring in my good friend, I would call him the Don of the MAGA movement, the OG Don of the MAGA movement, Stephen K. Bannon. I speculated that the K stands for Keith. Am I right or wrong, Mr. Bannon?
King.
Okay.
I'm kidding, Kevin. I'm just a Mick. I'm just a dumb Mick. Stephen Kevin Bannon, named after saints.
Stephen Kevin Bannon.
God
Okay,
bless
so Stephen Keith Bannon, Kevin. Stephen Kevin Bannon, sorry. This happened yesterday. Watch.
I'm not sure that saying that Steve Bannon calls balls and strikes is the right way.
I think at the risk of Elon Musk tweeting about me, because apparently he likes when I say the word balls on TV, I will say that balls and strikes, when you're talking about Steve Bannon, when he calls balls and strikes, he calls strikes balls and balls strikes. I mean, that's what he does. He says the opposite of what is happening, particularly when you're talking about, I don't know, the 2020 election. So let's just be clear on that. Having said that, we are so siloed in how we consume information that the fact that Gavin Newsom is so aggressively going, he's not just going over the line, he's going like to the other side of the spectrum in order to make a point. That's what he's doing.
Mr. Bannon, I believe I counted 7 or 8 times Dana Bash said balls, and I think she likes to say ball. I think she just likes to say balls. Your thoughts?
You are so cruel. They've lost it. I mean, CNN, you know this. You're a pro. You've been doing this for 20 or 30 years. They're just drifting. I have no earthly idea even what CNN does anymore, because we really break down MSNBC because they're on top of the MAGA movement, on top of President Trump with fake news nonstop because they get it from the New York Times. But CNN is just kind of wandering around. I mean, you don't even know. I mean, look at that conversation. It doesn't even make sense.
It made no sense. Like I said, it made so much so that it wasn't making any sense. I think she just liked to repeat policy. I know what the genesis of it was when Elon put a young kid, in charge of some of the technical aspects of Doge. His handle online was big balls, and just hearing Dana Bass say big balls was worth, its price of admission in itself. And so Elon was busting her, not her, what's her cojones.
Okay. Bowling. You've been in West Palm Beach. You've been in West Palm Beach a week too long. We're gonna get you back to either New York or D.C. It's the sun.
No, what's going on in New York?
You're hanging. You're too piratey. That's too piratey. That's too piratey.
Here's what's going on in New York earlier today. Roll that. Yeah, the Trump Tower, Steve. How many times have you and I been in that beautiful lobby there? And these lunatic pro-Palestinian protesters take it over. No coincidence that Homan is in New York. Trying to clean the place up. Yeah, shocking, no?
Well, here's the thing, Eric. By the way, the president who's given so much to this country, they put him in jail, assassination attempts, bankrupt him. Now his building has to be raided. I think most of those, or a lot of the instigators, are Jewish students that are for the destruction of Israel. It looks like the Free Palestine movement, or whatever it's called. And look at President Trump. Look at right there.
The left thinks everything's a peaceful protest. That's a peaceful protest. The other, Summer of Love in 2020, George Floyd burning down buildings, gunshots everywhere, people dying. Mostly peaceful protests. Yeah. But as I pointed out last segment, if you go outside an abortion clinic with a Bible and you say, "Hey, there's another option," they lock you up. The left will say that's a threat to democracy and people's freedoms. Steve, I'm going to give it to you a little.
No,
go ahead.
We had
Go for it.
No, Will Goodman. We had Will Goodman on the show that was in Danbury prison with me. He's got to face trial again tomorrow in New Jersey from a state judge. For saying the rosary outside of an abortion clinic. So that's where we stand as a country, Eric Bolling.
Yes, sir. Stephen, take it away, brother. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, brother. Getting to be the highlight of my day is doing the Passover from Eric Bolling myself. One time I get to laugh.